Duty after use. Rain over the Wyoming plains is never refreshing. It only turns dust into mud. Miller sits in his pickup by the closed gates of the textile plant. The engine is off, but the metal still clicks as it cools, small dry sounds in the damp air. Ahead of him stretches an empty parking lot where weeds push through the cracks in the asphalt, stubborn and without purpose. A flag hangs from a white, flaking pole. It is heavy with moisture, unmoving, pressed against the metal like a wet rag. Miller watches it through the windshield. He does not count the stars. He does not think about what the colors are supposed to mean. He is only waiting for darkness. The flag cannot be left out overnight in the rain without light. And the flood lamp in the factory yard burned out 2 years ago. No one replaced it. There was no request form for that kind of thing once the machine stopped. His hands rest on the steering wheel. They smell of diesel and old leather, a smell that no longer washes off. There is no anger in him, only a weight in his chest, physical and dull, as if fine dust has settled there and refuses to move. He breathes carefully, not shallow, not deep, just enough. Behind the fence, the factory windows are blind. Some are broken, some boarded, all of them dark. This place once needed him. That fact remains, even if the need itself is gone. Miller stays because the habit has outlived its reason, and habits, like objects, are slow to die. The rain thickens. It drums softly on the hood, on the roof, on the folded years he keeps inside himself. He watches the flag cling to the pole and waits for the light to fade, because waiting is the only part of the job that still exists. The diner smells of burnt grease and cheap disinfectant, the kind that promises cleanliness but only adds another layer to what is already there. Miller pushes the door open, and the bell above it rings, thin and tired. It sounds surprised every time, as if it no longer expects anyone to answer it. Claire stands behind the counter with a cigarette between her fingers. She does not rush to put it out. The ash is long, stable, practiced. She watches him cross the floor, the way one watches weather move in from far off, slow, predictable, impossible to stop. "Coffee," she says, already reaching for the pot. Miller sits in the same booth, vinyl cracked along the seam. He nods once. The cup arrives in front of him, filled to the rim. Steam rises, then thins. He does not touch it. On the wall hangs a calendar with mountains printed in clean blues and whites. The year ended a long time ago. No one turned the page. Miller notices this every time and never mentions it. Some things feel rude to correct. He runs his thumb along the rim of the cup, then stops. The coffee is too hot anyway. Claire leans against the counter and lights another cigarette from the first. Words pass between them only when they absolutely have to. "You were there again," she says. "Yes." "That pole still standing?" "Yes." She exhales smoke toward the ceiling fan, which does not turn. The smoke gathers and stays. Miller unscrews the salt shaker lid, checks it, screws it back on. The motion is careful, exact. He has been doing it for 10 years. The town no longer celebrates the 4th of July. There is no parade, no committee, no budget. But Miller still folds the flag into a triangle, slowly, as if precision could keep the walls from collapsing. Claire watches his hands. They are steady, older than the rest of him. "You don't have to," she says, not looking at him. He finally lifts the cup, takes one small sip, and sets it down again. "I know," he answers. The bell does not ring when anyone leaves. No one else comes in. The diner holds them both, quietly, like a pause that forgot what it was waiting for. "It got wet again," Claire says, looking past the glass toward the darkening street. The rain has thinned to a steady fall, patient and without intention. Miller nods. He knows what water does to fabric when time is given enough of it. The fibers swell, then loosen. The red has long since faded into something close to pink, and the white has taken on the color of the sky above this place flat, gray, undecided. He wraps both hands around the cup now. The heat is tolerable. It keeps him present. Tradition, he thinks, is not a bridge. It does not carry anyone across. The people he once imagined standing together beneath that flag have moved on to larger towns, to smaller rooms, to evenings spent drinking alone with the curtains drawn. What remains is a gesture with no audience. He understands this clearly, and the understanding brings no relief. It only adds weight. He is standing guard over something that has already been buried, a grave without a marker. The knowledge does not release him. It simply becomes another object to carry, solid and unarguable. Claire watches him in silence. She has learned not to ask questions that require explanations. Explanations pretend that something can still be adjusted. "You ever think of stopping?" she asks finally, her voice even. Miller looks at the surface of the coffee. A thin skin has formed. He breaks it with the edge of his finger and wipes the drop on his jeans. "Sometimes," he says, and he shrugs. The motion is small. It costs him nothing. Outside, the light thins. The rain keeps falling. Nothing inside him moves to meet it. Miller pushes the diner door open with his shoulder. The frame catches him briefly, wood against bone, and he pauses as if to check whether it was his fault or the building's. Outside, the air is sharper. The rain has slowed, but the wind has found its way in, moving low and fast between the buildings. He reaches into his jacket for a cigarette. The paper is soft. He taps it against the pack, then brings it to his lips. The lighter sparks once, twice, nothing. The flame dies before it forms. He tries again, shielding it with his palm. The wind takes it anyway. From the direction of the factory comes a sudden metallic shudder. Sheets of corrugated tin rattle, then settle, then rattle again. The sound travels across the empty lot like a warning meant for no one. Miller looks up. For a moment, the flag moves. Just once, it pulls free from the pole with a sharp, loud snap, as if something inside it has finally decided to speak. Then there is a dry, tearing sound, short and final. The fabric gives way. One strip breaks loose and disappears into the dark beyond the fence, carried toward the vacant land where nothing is named anymore. Miller does not run. His feet stay where they are. He watches the remaining piece hang there, smaller now, uneven, still clinging. The cigarette droops from his mouth. Rain soaks it through until it is useless. He leaves it there, lets it sag, lets the water finish the job. The wind passes. The noise fades. What remains is the pole, the scrap of cloth, and Miller standing between them, breathing slowly, as if speed might make the loss feel larger than it already is. Miller sits back in the pickup and closes the door with care. The sound is muted, almost respectful. He reaches into the glove compartment and takes out the spare flag, still wrapped in its thin cellophane. The plastic crackles softly as he holds it, the noise out of place in the quiet. He does not unwrap it. He rests his palm on the bundle and feels the coarse fabric through the film, stiff and clean, untouched by rain or habit. It is heavier than he expects, or maybe his hands are tired. Outside, the night has settled completely. The factory yard is a single dark mass. Far off, a truck's headlights appear on the highway, move steadily across the horizon, then vanish. Nothing about it is meant for him. The dashboard glows a dull green, just bright enough to outline his face in the windshield's reflection. His eyes look older this way, but not surprised. He sits without turning the key, without adjusting the seat, without deciding anything. Tomorrow, he will come back. He will stand at the pole again. He will do what the shape of his days still allows him to do. This thought carries no promise. It is not hope. It is only another night, intact and waiting. And Miller remains inside it, breathing, until it passes. $5 of plastic night, and the Nevada desert presses down without mercy. The air is dry, unmoving, as if it has already decided nothing new will happen here. In the distance, Las Vegas hangs on the horizon like an infected wound, yellow, swollen, too bright to be alive. It doesn't invite. It leaks. Inside the car, the dark is almost complete. Only the dashboard glows, a weak blue that casts Elena's face into shallow relief. It sharpens the lines time left behind and softens nothing. Her hands rest on the steering wheel. They move slightly, almost without permission, repeating an old choreography: shuffle, deal, pause. No cards, just habit. She does not speak. Outside the passenger window, a closed gas station slides past. Its sign still says open, the word flickering with tired conviction, blinking on and off like a pulse that refuses to stop out of spite. Elena watches it disappear in the side mirror. She has learned not to trust signs that promise life when everything else is already gone. From the rear seat comes the smell of cheap cologne layered over fear. The young man shifts his weight. The glass rattles faintly under his nervous tapping. Elena doesn't turn around. She already knows that restlessness, the way belief twitches when it hasn't yet learned its limits. An air freshener swings from the mirror. New car, it claims. It smells of plastic and age, of something pretending to be younger than it is. Elena breathes through it anyway. Pretending has always worked better than honesty. Ahead, the road stretches forward, flat and obedient. The city grows larger. The lights multiply. Somewhere behind her ribs, an old instinct starts counting chances. She lets it finish. Then she shifts gears and keeps driving. The passenger taps twice against the window, stops, then starts again. Not a rhythm, more like a question he's afraid to finish. Elena watches him in the rearview mirror. His tie is too tight, his jacket too thin for the desert night. He keeps adjusting his cuffs, as if something valuable might slip out of him if he isn't careful. She has seen this posture before, hundreds of times. The lean forward, the eyes that don't blink often enough, the belief that tonight the math will hesitate. Her hands tighten on the wheel. Without thinking, she measures him the way she once measured men across green felt. Age, desperation, the angle of hope. He is betting with money he hasn't earned yet. He is already late. The navigation voice cuts in pleasant, mechanical. Turn right in 500 feet. The voice sounds confident, like someone who has never been wrong and never paid for it. Elena follows the instruction. The road narrows. The darkness thickens, swallowing the edges of the headlights. Is this faster? The passenger asks. She nods once. It is neither true nor false. Faster is a flexible word. He laughs softly, relieved to hear something human, then goes quiet again. His fingers return to the glass. Elena imagines chips stacked too high, a careless split, the moment before the dealer turns the last card. She knows how this ends. She has always known. The car moves forward. The city waits. The count is already finished. They stop at the intersection where the city finally decides to look back. The light turns red without urgency. Elena sees herself in the windshield, faint and layered over the road ahead, as if she belongs to both and to neither. For a moment, she looks like the women she used to notice from the other side of the table, quiet, patient, already priced in. There is no difference anymore. Not between the one who pushes the chips forward and the one who keeps the car moving. Both wait for an ending. Both pretend it matters which form it takes. Her wrist feels lighter than it should. She touches it with her thumb, searching for weight that is no longer there. The watch is gone, the expensive one. Time no longer sits where it used to. In its place, a pale strip of skin remains exposed, almost embarrassed. The ashtray catches her eye. It is full, but none of the cigarettes are hers. She quit years ago, when quitting still felt like a choice. Now other people's habits pile up in her car, leaving behind only smell and evidence that they passed through. Lives reduced to residue. The light stays red. The passenger breathes behind her, shallow and quick. Elena does not look at him. When it turns green, she eases her foot off the brake. The city pulls them in. The passenger leans forward. "Could you stop here?" His voice cracks slightly, as if the request itself costs him something. They are still 100 meters from the casino entrance. The neon spills across the asphalt, but this spot remains oddly dim, unfinished. Elena pulls over without comment. The engine idles, patient, indifferent. He fumbles in his pockets. Coins first, receipts, a phone with a cracked screen. Finally, he produces a single chip $5, its edges worn smooth by too many hands. He hesitates, then offers it to her with an apologetic smile that doesn't ask forgiveness, only understanding. "I'm short," he says. She takes it. The chip is light, colder than she expects. She knows it immediately. This casino doesn't exist anymore. It was torn down years ago, replaced by something louder, cleaner, and just as hungry. The chip is worthless. A souvenir pretending to be currency. Elena closes her fingers around it. "Good luck," he says, already halfway out the door. He smells less like cologne now and more like fear again. She doesn't answer. She doesn't watch him walk toward the lights, toward the idea of an opening in the system. She reaches forward and turns off the app. The screen goes dark. The car feels suddenly quieter, as if it has been released from a contract. The chip rests in her pocket, useless and undeniable. She lets it stay there. Elena parks beyond the city, where the asphalt breaks apart and the lights finally give up. The horizon begins to loosen, not into color but into gray, as if someone is carefully erasing the night rather than replacing it. Las Vegas dims behind her. Neon signs flicker, then surrender. Without them, the buildings look honest for the first time. She steps out of the car. The desert air is cool now, thin and exact. It carries no promises. From the trunk, she takes a thermos and unscrews the lid. The coffee inside is almost cold. She drinks it anyway, in small, deliberate sips. Warmth arrives late, like everything else. She doesn't rush it. The chip presses lightly against her thigh. She can feel it even without reaching for it. A token from a game that has already ended. She leaves it where it is. Steam rises from the cup and disappears almost immediately, erased by the dry air. Elena watches it go. There is nothing left to count. No odds to measure. No hands waiting for the next deal. She stands there as the day settles into place. It isn't a win. It isn't a loss. It is simply morning, and she is still here. $10 for a beginning. Morning in the Ohio town arrives without conviction. The main street ends where the windows are boarded over, as if the day itself has learned where not to go. Inside the thrift store called Second Chance, light falls through the display glass and settles on the dust, turning it into something almost orderly. The air smells of laundry powder and old lint. Ellen stands behind the counter with her hands still. She does not touch the clothes unless she must. She has learned that every stain on silk is not dirt, but a signature left by someone whose hands were shaking. Milas comes in at the usual time, when fog lifts from the highway like a tired thought. He smells of cheap tobacco and garage oil and brings the same leather jacket. The zipper catches at his chest and refuses to move. The sound is sharp, metallic, out of proportion to the quiet around them. Ellen watches his fingers thick, nails darkened, built for weight rather than care. "It sticks again," he says. "A little wax," she answers. They both know wax is only a word you use when there is nothing else to say. Later, she sorts through a woman's coat, expensive, heavy, its fabric still proud of itself. One button is bitten through, not torn away. Ellen recognizes the sign. Running leaves different marks than anger. She no longer tries to imagine faces. She reads elbows, cuffs, worn heels. People have become temporary frames for fabric. She knows the young woman will not return, and she knows the coat will sell for $10 to someone who believes it can be the beginning of a new life. This is the largest lie Ellen sells, and she sells it daily. Just before closing, Miles comes back. He does not buy the jacket. He stands by the door and looks out at the street, where a single neon sign keeps working out of habit. He asks for a glass of water. Ellen pours whiskey into a paper cup instead. They drink without ceremony. There is no confession, no relief. Only the shared understanding that they too are inventory items that will never be priced or moved. Miles leaves the jacket on the counter. He will not fix it. When the door is locked, Ellen sits on the folding chair in the back. A truck passes, shaking the glass. She lifts Miles's jacket onto her knees. The leather is cold and steady. In the dark, the clothes on their hangers look like people who have gathered without speaking. She lights a cigarette. Smoke rises and blends with the dust. Tomorrow there will be another delivery of someone else's life. It isn't sad. It simply is. By noon the light has shifted, flatter now, less forgiving. The dust no longer floats. It settles on sleeves and collars, as if choosing where to belong. Ellen moves through the racks in a slow, practiced line, spacing hangers that do not need spacing. The radio above the counter murmurs a voice from somewhere else, selling optimism between weather reports. She does not listen. The clothes have their own frequency. Wool absorbs sound. Denim keeps it. Polyester reflects everything back, unchanged. A woman enters with a plastic bag, knotted too tightly. She does not look around. She goes straight to the counter, unties the knot, then reties it when the contents resist her. Inside are children's clothes, clean, folded, too carefully kept. Ellen notices the absence, first no coats. It is still cold outside. Donation? The woman asks, already stepping back. Ellen nods. The woman leaves without waiting for thanks, as if gratitude would make the loss heavier. Ellen adds the bag to the pile and writes a number on a tag. It is not a price. It is a way of letting go. In the back room, she sorts. Small shirts. Pants with knees gone thin. A sweater with a name written in marker, half erased by washing. She pauses, then finishes the erasing with her thumb. Names reduce value. She has learned this the hard way. People want beginnings without evidence. She folds the sweater anyway, slower than necessary, until it looks like it belongs to no one at all. The afternoon customer is a man who asks if things here ever come back. Ellen does not ask what he means. Sometimes, she says. It is the safest answer. He nods, relieved by the possibility rather than the truth. He buys nothing and leaves fingerprints on the glass door that catch the light for a moment after he is gone. Near closing, Ellen writes tomorrow's date on a scrap of paper and pins it to the board. It is a small act of order. Outside, the street waits. Inside, the racks hold their quiet lines. Nothing has changed, and yet everything is moved one place closer to disappearance. Ellen turns off the radio. The silence fits better. The afternoon stretches, elastic and thin. Heat gathers behind the glass and turns the store into a closed pocket of air. Ellen loosens the collar of her shirt and feels the day cling to her skin. Outside, a delivery truck idles too long, then leaves without unloading. Its absence feels intentional, like a decision finally made. Inside, the clothes hang with a patience that borders on accusation. She finds a man's shirt misfiled among the women's blouses. White, good cotton, cuffs softened by years of repetition. On the inside of the collar, there is a faint yellowing, careful, symmetrical. Someone wore this often, but only for short periods, removing it before sweat could fully settle. Ellen imagines meetings that ended early, dinners left before dessert. She does not imagine faces anymore. She imagines habits. Habits are more honest. A teenager wanders in, headphones in, eyes unfocused. He fingers a rack without looking at it, stopping only when his hand meets leather. He lifts a jacket, too big for him, shoulders already collapsed inward. Vintage? He asks, uncertain. Ellen shrugs. Used, she says. He nods as if this explains everything. He checks the price, frowns, puts it back more carefully than he found it. Wanting something is easy. Carrying it is heavier. In the back room, a box tips over. Shoes spill out heels with worn tips, sneakers with split soles, one boot missing its pair. Ellen kneels and lines them up. She notices how shoes tell the truth faster than clothes. Weight, direction, hesitation. You can lie with a jacket. You cannot lie with your feet. She pairs what can be paired and discards what cannot. Some losses are administrative. When she stands, her knees complain briefly, then accept it. The clock above the register has stopped again. Ellen does not fix it. Time works well enough without assistance. She returns to the counter and waits, not for customers, but for the day to admit it is finished. Evening arrives by subtraction. The light thins, colors drain, and the store becomes a place of outlines rather than objects. Ellen switches on the fluorescent strip above the counter. It flickers once and agrees to stay. The dust settles into corners, no longer visible, as if it has decided to rest. Outside, traffic moves with the slow obedience of people returning to rooms they did not choose. Milas comes in again, earlier than usual. He does not bring the jacket this time. His hands are empty, which makes them look larger. He stands near the counter and studies a rack of shirts without touching them. They close the garage next month, he says, as if continuing a conversation they never started. Ellen nods. Closure has a recognizable tone. That's how it goes, she answers. It is not consolation. It is inventory language. He asks if she ever buys anything from here herself. The question surprises her by how little it matters. Once, she says, a winter coat years ago when the heater in her apartment failed and she needed something that remembered warmth. She does not mention that she gave it back the following spring. Some things refuse to stay owned. They stand in silence, listening to the refrigerator hum in the back room. Milas looks at the door, then away from it. I should head out, he says. He does not move. Ellen reaches under the counter and sets a paper cup between them. Whiskey again. They drink without clinking, without ceremony. When Milas leaves, the bell over the door rings too loud, then settles. Ellen turns off half the lights. The racks recede into shadow. She straightens a sleeve that does not need straightening and writes tomorrow as opening time on the glass, even though it is already printed there. The repetition calms her. Outside, the neon sign across the street buzzes. Inside, the store holds its breath, waiting to be useful one more time. Night finishes what evening only started. Ellen locks the door and tests it once, twice, the way people do when they want certainty without belief. The street has emptied into itself. The neon sign across the road blinks, pauses, and resumes, stubborn rather than hopeful. Inside, the store feels larger without witnesses. Space expands when no one is there to measure it. She carries Mila's jacket to the back and sets it on a chair instead of hanging it. The leather creases softly, accepting the position. It smells faintly of smoke and metal. Ellen sits and rests her hands on it, palms open, as if waiting for something to be returned. Nothing is. She does not expect it to be. Expectation is a habit she broke years ago. The racks stand in rows, obedient, anonymous. In the low light, they resemble people who have learned to wait without complaint. Ellen moves between them, counting steps without numbers. Somewhere a pipe ticks as it cools. The building settles, older than any of the things inside it. She feels her own weight the way you feel weather present, unavoidable, not personal. Before leaving, she turns off the last light and lets the dark arrive fully. Tomorrow there will be more bags, more stories folded small enough to carry. She does not think about them yet. She pulls on her coat, the one that never sells, and steps outside. The door closes behind her. Nothing follows. Unassigned hours, November settles heavily over rural Pennsylvania, not as weather, but as a condition. Moisture clings to everything metal, concrete, skin, as if the air itself has learned to wait. The factory stands beyond the fence, like a mouth that has forgotten how to close. Its windows are broken in uneven rows, knocked out long ago, teeth lost without paying. Nothing moves there now except the wind, which pushes scraps of paper and plastic along the yard with the patience of someone who has nowhere else to go. Hark sits in the guard booth with his coat still on. He never takes it off anymore. The heater broke last winter and was never fixed. It wasn't worth fixing. On the table rests a paper cup of cheap coffee, gone lukewarm, and a magazine left behind by someone whose name he no longer remembers. The faces on its cover have faded into a colorless confidence, smiles advertising a future that never included this place. He hasn't turned a page in days. Dust gathers on the windowsill in a thin, even layer. It falls slowly, almost carefully, as if mindful not to disturb him. Hark watches it without thought. The factory no longer produces cloth or noise or wages. Only this, dust, arriving on schedule. The most reliable shift left running. Every Tuesday, just before the light drains out of the sky, Lena appears at the gate. She never arrives early. She never arrives late. Time has narrowed for her into this one habit, and she keeps it the way other people keep appointments or prayers. The chain on the gate hangs loose. It always does. Hark never locks it all the way, and Lena never comments on it. Agreements like that don't need words. Words would only make them fragile. He hears her steps on the gravel before he sees her. The sound is softer than it used to be. Everything is softer now. Lena stops a few feet from him, as if there were still a line she isn't allowed to cross. She reaches into her coat and takes out a cigarette. Her fingers move with a faint, unconscious precision, the memory of work still guiding them. Hark strikes the lighter. For a moment, the flame opens their faces to each other, creased skin, tired eyes, lines laid down slowly, like factory plans drawn for a building that was never finished. They stand close enough to share the warmth of the small fire between them. "Snow's coming," Lena says. He nods. "They say it'll stick this year? That is all. Snow is safe. Snow still belongs to the world. Work doesn't. The factory has been dead too long to speak of it without lying." Smoke rises and disappears into the damp air. When the cigarettes burn down, neither of them rushes to leave. There is nowhere they need to be yet. Inside, the main hall opens like a space that has forgotten its purpose. The ceiling disappears upward into shadow, too high for the light to reach. Their footsteps move ahead of them, echoing back with a delay that makes each step feel borrowed. Hark switches on his flashlight. The beam slides across the floor, catching on patches of darker concrete where machines once stood bolted in place. The bolts are gone now. So are the machines. What remains are the stains oil, grease, years pressed into the ground and left behind like fingerprints. Cables hang from the ceiling, cut short, their ends stiff and blackened. They no longer lead anywhere. Lena walks slowly, as if counting distance without numbers. She stops near the center of the hall, at a place no one would notice unless they already knew. This is where her loom used to stand. She doesn't touch the floor. She doesn't close her eyes. There is no ceremony in it. The anger left her years ago, worn down by repetition. What settles instead is a hollow pressure low in her stomach, something close to hunger, but untouched by food. The kind that stays no matter how carefully you live. Hark waits a few steps back. The light from his flashlight rests on the ground between them. He knows better than to move it. Hark watches Lena's shadow stretch along the wall, thin and uneven, broken where the bricks have cracked. It moves when she shifts her weight, then settles again, patient. For a long time, he looks only at that shadow, not at her. It feels more honest that way. It occurs to him, not suddenly, not as a thought worth naming, that the factory was never empty. It only stopped pretending to be useful. The air still carries their hours, their movements, the sounds that once filled the space so completely no one noticed them. All of it is still here, working a night shift that will never end. Silent, unpaid. This realization changes nothing. The machines will not return. No manager will unlock an office and explain the mistake. There will be no envelopes, no schedules, no reason to hurry. Cold air slips in through the broken windows and settles into the building with the confidence of something permanent. Some gaps cannot be sealed once they have been left open too long. Lena turns slightly, as if she has felt the same thing pass through him. They don't look at each other. There is nothing to confirm. Recognition does not require agreement. It only requires that neither of them leaves. Lena opens her bag with care, as if the sound might matter. From the bottom, she takes out a small spool of thread. It is wound tightly, the color faded to something between gray and blue, the shade things take on when they have waited too long in a drawer. She found it at home, tucked behind old papers, its label long gone. She doesn't explain why she kept it all these years. She steps toward a rusted frame near the wall, a piece of metal too warped to be useful and too heavy to have been moved. The factory's residue still clings to it: dust, grease, a skin of time. Lena places the spool on top and lets go. That is all. There is no gesture in it meant to be understood. It is not an offering. It is not a memory. It is simply an object returning to the place where it once made sense. Hark sees the movement out of the corner of his eye. He does not comment. Words would only interrupt what has already been finished. He lifts his collar higher against the draft, protecting his neck from the cold that moves freely through the building now, as if it has earned the right. Lena walks back the way they came, her steps quieter than before. Outside, her old car waits near the fence, its paint dulled by years of weather and neglect. The engine hesitates when she turns the key, then catches with a tired sound, as if surprised to be asked again. She doesn't look back at the building when she drives off. Hark returns to the guard booth and sits down in the same position he left. The chair creaks, remembering him. On the wall, a calendar hangs with most of its days already crossed out, the numbers losing meaning as they disappear. He draws a line through today's date. The motion is steady, practiced. Beyond the yard, the highway lights come on one by one. They shine clean and distant, leading toward cities that no longer need this place and never think about it. Hark lifts the paper cup and drinks the last of the coffee. It has gone cold, bitter, the only taste he can still be sure of. Tomorrow he will be here again. Steel dust. The city is choking on what it left behind. Kane sits on the cracked concrete step of a roadside motel that has learned not to expect guests. The paint on the railing peels in thin, exhausted strips. Somewhere inside, a television murmurs to no one. The sound never quite forms words. It is only there to prove that electricity still exists. Across the road, beyond a chain-link fence bowed inward by years of neglect, the factory stands in pieces. Its skeleton rises against the Ohio sky beams exposed, walls gone, windows hollow. In the daylight, it looks less like a building than the remains of something once alive, a great animal picked clean and abandoned. Kane knows the layout by heart. He can still trace the welding lines in his head, remember where sparks used to fall, where the noise pressed so hard against the ears that silence later felt unreal. The sky is not blue. It has the color of an old work coat that was never washed because it would be dirty again tomorrow anyway. A gust of wind pushes an empty beer can across the asphalt. It rattles, hesitates, tips onto its side, then scrapes forward again, metal against stone. The sound cuts cleanly through the quiet. Kane follows it with his eyes until it hits the curb and stops, as if it has reached the end of what it was meant to do. That sound stays with him. It is familiar. It belongs to a time when noise meant purpose, when every day began with a siren and ended with fatigue that could be trusted. Now the town holds its breath. The streets are too wide for the traffic they no longer carry. Storefronts stare back with dusty glass and fading promises. Cain does not check the time. He hasn't in years. His inner clock stopped the day Hannah said she would come back after things were clean, after life made sense somewhere else. Since then, everything has been measured not in hours or days, but in waiting. He rubs his thumb along the edge of the step. Fine grit clings to his skin. Steel dust, maybe, or just dirt. Out here, the difference no longer matters. Cold water runs over Cain's hands, sharp enough to sting. He leans over the narrow sink in the motel bathroom, shoulders slightly hunched, as if expecting the ceiling to press down on him. The faucet rattles when he turns it, complaining about being used at all. The water smells faintly of rust. He lets it run anyway. He scrubs his palms with a bar of cheap soap, gray and worn thin, the kind that never quite lathers. His movements are slow, deliberate. He knows this routine. He has repeated it for years, even when there was no longer a shift to wash off. The soap slides across his skin, but the pale lines in his hands remain, creases darkened by decades of heat, metal, and repetition. They are not stains. They are records. Cain presses his fingers together, rubs at the webbing between them, then at the pads of his thumbs. The water turns cloudy, then clears. Nothing changes. The marks stay where they are, settled too deep to be argued with. Above the sink, the mirror is cracked straight down the middle. The glass has yellowed at the edges, and the light above it flickers with a tired buzz. His reflection splits him into two versions that don't quite align. One eye looks more alert than the other. One side of his mouth seems older. He does not try to correct it by moving. He has learned not to expect symmetry. He shuts off the tap and stands there, hands dripping, listening to the last drops fall into the basin. Each one lands with a soft, hollow sound. When the silence returns, it feels heavier than before. On the bed behind him lies his welding mask. He left it there when he unpacked, as if it might still be needed. The straps are stiff. The glass is clouded with old burn marks and smoke. He picks it up, turning it once in his hands. It is heavier than he remembers, or maybe his arms have simply grown used to lifting nothing. He does not look through the visor. There is no reason to. Instead, he holds it against his chest for a moment, feeling its weight settle. There was a time when this weight meant structure: morning, work, evening, sleep. A clean division. A beginning and an end. Cain sets the mask back down carefully, aligning it with the edge of the mattress. Then he dries his hands on his jeans, though they are already clean in every way that still matters. The bell above the diner door rings once when Cain steps inside, then falls silent again. The air is thick with the smell of frying grease and old coffee that has been reheated too many times. It clings to the walls, the counter, the vinyl booths polished smooth by decades of bodies that came and went without ceremony. Fluorescent lights hum overhead, casting a pale sheen over everything, as if the room exists slightly outside of time. Cain slides into his usual seat at the counter. The vinyl sighs under his weight. He rests his forearms on the worn surface and looks straight ahead. The formica is scratched with names, dates, small declarations that outlive the people who carved them. He does not read them. Milo appears without a word. He is thinner than he used to be, or maybe the diner has simply grown larger around him. His movements are practiced and careful, as though balance depends on them. He sets a chipped mug in front of Cain and fills it with coffee so dark it reflects the ceiling lights like oil. Their eyes do not meet. They do not need to. There is no greeting. None has ever been required. Cain wraps his hands around the mug. The heat seeps slowly into his palms. It is the same cup, the same taste, the same bitterness he has come to rely on. Some things still behave as expected. Above them, a ceiling fan turns with visible effort. Each rotation ends in a brief, dry squeal before the blades continue on. The sound is irregular but persistent. Cain listens to it, counts the pauses between each complaint. After a while, the rhythm settles into him. Inhale, exhale, squeal, inhale, exhale. Outside the front windows, the street lies open and exposed. A few cars pass without stopping. The town does not call to them anymore. It only lets them through. Milo wipes the counter with a rag that has long since given up on being clean. He moves in small circles, as if the motion itself matters more than the result. Cain watches the rag travel and return, until it feels like the only thing holding the room together. The fan squeals again. Cain takes a slow sip of coffee. The taste grounds him, anchors him in the chair. In this place, silence is not absence. It is a condition. The first sound reaches them before the machine does. It comes low and heavy, a dull vibration that presses through the diner windows and settles into the floor. The fan overhead keeps turning indifferent, but its squeal is swallowed by the deeper rhythm outside. Cain pauses with the cup halfway to his mouth. Milo stops wiping the counter. The rag hangs loose in his hand. Through the front window, a bulldozer crawls into view, its yellow paint too bright for the street it has been sent to erase. Behind it, a second machine follows, slower, patient. They move with the confidence of things that know resistance is no longer expected. Across the intersection stands the old post office. Its bricks are faded, the flagpole bare. The windows are dark, though Cain remembers the way the light used to fall across the floor inside, cutting the room into neat shapes. That was where Hannah had stood, shifting her weight from one foot to the other, folding the paper twice before handing it to him as if it were nothing. The blade hits the wall. Brick collapses inward with a sound that is more breath than impact. Dust blooms upward, thick and gray, drifting into the air until it dulls the afternoon light. Cain watches as the building opens, its inside exposed without dignity. Rooms appear where there should not be rooms. The past is revealed and immediately destroyed. On the counter in front of him sits the sugar dispenser. Its glass is cloudy, the metal lid dented. Cain's gaze drops to it, as if the rest has become too much to hold at once. With each tremor from the street, fine white grains slip through a crack at the rim and fall onto the counter. One by one, they land silently, forming a small, uneven pile. Cain does not brush them away. He counts them without numbers, feeling each second pass as the crystals fall. There is no way to gather them back into the glass. Once they have escaped, they belong to the surface they touch. Outside, the bulldozer pulls back and strikes again. The dust rises higher this time, swallowing the post office until it is only a shape in motion. Cain exhales slowly and sets the cup down. The sugar keeps falling. Cain reaches into the inside pocket of his jacket and unfolds the letter. The paper has gone soft with age, thinned by being handled too often, as if his fingers had been slowly erasing it. The creases no longer hold their shape. They sag, tired, ready to tear. He holds it carefully, the way one holds something already broken. There is no need. The words live somewhere behind his eyes now, fixed and unchanging. He knows where the pauses are, where Hannah's handwriting tightens, where it opens again as if to suggest optimism. When things settle down, when it's clean. I'll come back. Sentences built to survive distance, not time. Outside, the machines continue their work. Another wall gives way. Dust drifts past the window, like weather that was never meant to arrive. Cain studies the edge of the paper. It trembles slightly, though the diner is warm. He understands, with a clarity that surprises him, that the promise was never a lie. It was simply unfinished, and unfinished things do not age well. They erode. They lose their edges until there is nothing left to hold. He folds the letter again, slower than before, aligning the corners with care. The motion feels ceremonial, final. When he slips it back into his pocket, it rests flat against his chest, lighter than it used to be. Kane takes out a cigarette and places it between his lips. Milo appears with a lighter, sets it on the counter without comment. The flame catches on the first try. Smoke rises straight up, a thin, disciplined column, untouched by doubt. For a moment, it almost holds its shape. Then the ceiling fan reaches it. The blade cuts through the smoke, breaks it apart, sends it drifting in uneven strands across the room. What rose with intention disperses without protest. Kane watches until there is nothing left to see. Milo comes closer with the coffee pot, lifting it slightly in question. Kane answers by placing his palm over the mouth of the cup. The gesture is small, final. Milo nods once, as if he has been waiting for it, and lowers the pot. He does not ask anything. Some decisions announce themselves without sound. Kane reaches into his pocket again, this time deeper, past the folded paper, past loose change that has lost its meaning. His fingers close around a small metal disc. The edges are worn smooth. It fits his hand the way certain tools do, shaped over time by repetition. It is a factory tag once used to clock in, to prove presence, a thing meant to be counted. Under the fluorescent light, it catches a dull shine, reflecting the ceiling in a warped, uncertain way. The numbers stamped into it are barely legible now, softened by years of use. Kane does not turn it to face himself. He knows what it says. For a moment, the diner feels oddly quiet, as if the room is holding its breath. Even the fan seems to hesitate before completing its next turn. Milo's eyes flick to the token, then away. His hands resume their work, wiping the counter in slow circular motions. He does not touch the metal. Some objects ask not to be disturbed. Kane sits there for another second, feeling the chair beneath him, the floor beneath that, the town beneath everything. Then he stands. The movement comes without hesitation, as if his body has been prepared for it longer than his mind. The token remains on the table, foreign and alone, shining faintly under the light. It does not belong to the diner, just as Kane no longer belongs to the hours it once measured. He walks to the door. The bell rings again once, cleanly, and stops. Outside, the night has settled without asking permission. The air is cooler now, stripped of the day's dust and heat. Kane pauses on the diner's step, feeling the temperature through the thin soles of his boots. Across the street, the machines stand silent, their work finished or postponed. The space where the post office stood is dark and open, a fresh absence outlined by scattered debris. He does not look at it for long. Kane walks toward his pickup, parked beneath a flickering streetlight. The truck is old, its paint dulled to a color that no longer has a name. He opens the door and sits, letting the seat take his weight. For a moment, he rests his hands on the steering wheel, thumbs tracing the cracks in the vinyl. He turns the key. The engine hesitates, then catches. The sound is rough, but familiar. It fills the cab and pushes back the silence. The dashboard lights come on, washing his hands in a soft green glow. The lines in his palms are still there. Fine gray dust clings to them, visible now in the artificial light. Steel dust, he thinks, or maybe just the road. Either way, it feels lighter than before. Kane shifts into gear and pulls onto the empty street. The town does not respond. It does not wish him well or ask him to stay. The road opens ahead, a narrow strip of asphalt stretching into darkness between flat fields and unlit signs. In the rear-view mirror, the diner's light grows smaller, then disappears entirely. He keeps driving. Behind him, the dust he stirred rises briefly, then settles back onto the pavement, leaving nothing to mark that he was ever there. The last shift, The fan above the bed turned the air slowly, unevenly, as if it were tired itself. Its hum didn't drown out the monitor's beeping. It only filled the gaps between the sounds. Room 4 was lit by a pale light that cast no shadows. Outside the window, the highway stretched flat and gray. Far off, the neon sign of a fast food place flickered, briefly washing the sides of passing trucks in color. Dr. El Casidis stood by the window with his hands in his coat pockets. His fingers smelled of cheap soap that never quite washed away and tobacco. He watched the headlights recede until they became points, then disappeared. Outside, things kept moving. In here, nothing was in a hurry. Ben lay at the end of the room. His eyes were open, but there was no direction in them. The monitor counted his presence steadily, without interest. Casidis picked up the plastic cup from the bedside table and filled it with water. The measurement lines blurred. He set the cup back where he always did, closer to the edge of the bed. Ben didn't move. The water stayed clear and untouched. It happened every evening, not because it mattered. It was simply easier than doing nothing. Casidis sat down on the chair at the foot of the bed. He didn't straighten the sheet or check the IV. They were quiet. There was enough silence for it to become almost physical heavy, but stable. "Can I have a cigarette?" Ben asked. His voice was calm, without pleading. Casidis didn't answer right away. He knew the rules. He also knew they didn't mean much here. He shook his head. "No," Ben nodded. He turned his gaze toward the lamp above the bed. A speck of dust drifted slowly through the light, rising, falling, changing direction with the fan's air. Ben followed it with his eyes until it vanished. The night thickened. Isolated footsteps echoed in the corridors. Somewhere far away, a train whistle sounded long, hollow, meant for somewhere else. "Does it hurt?" Casidis asked. Ben thought for a moment. He shook his head. "No," he said. "It's just strange." Casidis said nothing. The words stayed between them, without explanation. He knew that strangeness, not from books or training, but from the moment when the body starts behaving like a foreign object someone else is already preparing to take away. He stood and went back to the window. Outside, the neon blinked once more. Fewer trucks now. The highway was slowly emptying. On his way back to the bed, Casidis stopped. He pulled a flat flask from his pocket. It was old, dented slightly on one side. He unscrewed the cap and caught the familiar smell of alcohol. He poured a little into the water. Not enough to change the color, just enough to take the hospital taste away. Casidis nudged the cup closer. Ben looked at it. The corner of his mouth moved, barely. He lifted the cup with effort, as if his hand weren't entirely his, and took a sip. The alcohol briefly cut through the bitterness of medication. Casidis raised his own cup. They touched glasses softly. The sound was dull, almost non-existent. Ben drank once more and set the cup back down. He didn't say anything. Neither did Casidis. When the light began to turn gray, the shadows in the room disappeared. The fan kept turning. The monitor didn't stop its work. Casidis adjusted his coat. He stood for a moment, as if waiting to be stopped. Nothing happened. He nodded to Ben and stepped into the hallway. The hospital parking lot was empty. The air was cold and clean. Casidis lit a cigarette. The smoke rose straight up, untouched by wind. He inhaled and felt the night finally give way. Behind him, the building would continue its work. Ahead, morning waited, offering nothing. The shift was over. He stood there another minute, then dropped the cigarette and crushed it under his shoe. The world remained as it had been all along, calm and indifferent,